ILTV on the hour, bringing the biggest stories from Israel and the Middle East. In just 5 minutes, I'm Shosh Bedrosian, and today is day 646 of the war in Gaza. Let's get into all the top headlines at this hour. The Israeli public and the families of hostages are still waiting for a ceasefire hostage deal to come to fruition, but intense IDF ground and Air Force operations inside of Gaza continued over the weekend. Several soldiers were injured, and other families are now laying their loved ones to rest after they were killed in the enclave during combat. All as Hamas continues to lead their fight with planting explosives and ambushing IDF soldiers in the enclave. Over the weekend, the IDF operations included the dismantling of key terror sites of Hamas and Islamic Jihad, and dozens of terrorists were killed and more than 250 terror targets were struck, according to the IDF. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu is expected to meet with a small group of Israeli ministers today to discuss one of the points of contentions in the current negotiations with Hamas to reach a ceasefire and a hostage deal. Now, the negotiations are now at a standstill, according to officials who told Israeli media this, despite recent optimism from President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. An Israeli official said that Israel accepted the Qatari proposal for a 60-day ceasefire and a hostage deal, but Hamas rejected it. The meeting will focus on the approval of new maps regarding a partial IDF withdrawal, according to media reports. Meanwhile, Netanyahu said in an interview on American television this weekend, he is confident a deal will be reached to free the hostages inside of Gaza, although the Prime Minister left Washington, D.C. without a concrete deal in motion inside of the enclave. And on Saturday, Palestinian officials told the BBC the hostage and ceasefire negotiations were on the verge of collapse after no significant progress was made inside of Doha over the last few days. And thousands of Israelis took to the streets in Tel Aviv Saturday night to protest for the release of the hostages and an end to the war. Released hostage Eli Sharabi spoke to the crowd, in addition to actress Noah Tishby, and of course, the parents of released hostages. Joining us now to discuss all of this is Brigadier General Reserves Hanan Gefen. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Good day.
First off, just explain to us why these talks are stalled, according to officials. We know it's over the IDF's redeployment into the Gaza Strip, but also this mechanism of how humanitarian aid will be distributed inside of the Gaza Strip. But why can't progress be made?
Yeah, because these are the part of the problems, the issues on the tables. The issue that is most, I would say, blocking any advance is the claim of Hamas that Israel will cease fire altogether, which what they call Hudna, a permanent ceasefire. For them, this is the victory, Hudna. Just to remind you that, to remind us that just on March, even the American emissaries, Adam Boehler and Steve Witkoff, agreed that Hamas may stay for a period of 6 or 10 years. This is the victory. Now they are retreated and changed their position, but nevertheless, the Hamas right now is insisting that the United States, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in his voice, with his signature, we signed an agreement and commitment that Israel will not restart the war, whatever the consequences of these 60 days of negotiation will be. This is the claim. The retreat and the humanitarian aids are solvable. This is not solvable.
Specifically, did Netanyahu leave Washington, D.C. with no tangible success on a hostage and ceasefire deal? Is there something concrete that the public does not see right now that could be in motion in terms of getting the ceasefire and hostage deal, into motion here?
Yes, there are things in motion. The fact that Mr. Netanyahu is talking with Mr. Smotrich and Mr. Ben-Gvir is because there is something boiling there. He knows or assesses there will be these 60 days of ceasefire and negotiations. We hear the same voices for Hamas. They claim, some of them at least, that negotiations are still going on, waiting for pressure from the American on the Israelis. So things are going on. From the Palestinian side, the pressure on the Hamas side, the pressure of the population is growing daily. They are urging ceasefire. They are claiming that the Hamas is playing a game against their best interest. We hear it from all over Gaza. And the Hamas trying to keep this negotiation on the verge of success because they need to explain and encourage their population, which they blame them to this very bad situation that this population is in it.
Now, in terms of getting this deal at this rate, what needs to happen? Which side of these conversations is actually causing the majority of these issues at this point? Is it Israel? Is it Hamas? Is it a combination of both of them in different regards?
There's probably a misunderstanding at the entry point. The Hamas understand that through Qataris probably, or maybe even some American representative gave them the idea that they might survive after 60 days, whatever the consequences will be. On the other side, Israel understand that 60 days is to finish this first part of the deal of releasing hostages and entering into serious discussions on the second part of releasing hostages and not committing to end the war unless the Hamas is giving up his weapon, giving up any role he has in Gaza the day after. Now, these are the problems right now on the table.
I mean, what would it take for Hamas to actually get to the point where they would lay down their arms? What would it take? What level would have to be reached in order for that to happen, for Hamas to agree to that? And I think it's important to remind our viewers that the Hamas leaders that are in charge of leading these negotiations inside of Doha, Qatar, they are certainly not inside of the Gaza Strip. They are not dealing with the day-to-day of what's going on and how their own people continue to suffer there. So what would it take for them to actually lay down their weapons?
That's I would say, the question that President Donald Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and the others are asking themselves. Even the representative of Hamas in Doha, those who are sitting in their hotels, their luxurious hotels, are asking themselves, because the hardcore still left in Gaza of Hamas people um, are raised on understanding that if they stood fast, the Israelis will give up and they will survive. This is their ideology from the day they started this Hamas notion, let's say 30 years ago. Now, the 7th of October, until the 7th of October, we believe, that giving them the opportunities and the money and the working opportunities, then they will change and these ideologies will change. But no, it is not changing. The ideology of destroying Israel, killing all Jews they might come close to them, didn't change. And these hardcore are still in Gaza. Now, I just want to portray, I would say, a hypothetical case where there will be a ceasefire, uh, and they will feel that their requests were answered and they will stay there, the Hamas, as long as they wish. We will see the parades with children and soldiers, armed soldiers, chanting the next year in Jerusalem, the next year we will repeat the 7th of October. This is what hold them right now. What Israel is trying to do to prevent this hypothetical case is trying to convince or trying to separate between the population and the Hamas fighter, the Hamas terrorists, in order to make to be able to eliminate them, to let them understand that, and they right now they do not understand it, that their time in Gaza is over.
I want to ask specifically just about the operations that are continuing to happen inside of the Gaza Strip. The IDF conducted intense airstrikes over the weekend, specifically in urban areas. This is all as IDF soldiers continue to get killed and several more injured during combat situations. Now, one of those soldiers was actually ambushed last week, and his body was almost kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. The terror group actually released video of this for themselves. Why is Hamas resulting to this type of fighting now, in addition to planting these types of explosives?
This is the type of war Hamas was conducting and training to for many years. It shouldn't surprise us. What surprised us really is the hundreds of miles of tunnels and tons of weapons accumulated all over the Gaza Strip. I would say one of the biggest surprises of the Israeli intelligence of the number of tunnels, the quality of the tunnels, the depth the tunnels are connecting almost any point in Gaza to other point through tunnels, not on the ground. And now the idea at the beginning, I'd say the start of the war, didn't realize what extent these tunnels are. And now once it's realized, it's turning to a different kind of war, which is taking advantage of the Israeli technology superiorities, the intelligence, the improving and better intelligence that day by day can give more and more targets. And what we see right now is a total control over Gaza on every inch, trying to convey to the guys, both in Hamas guys, both in Doha and in the tunnels or wherever they are in Gaza, that the war is over. Israel is not going to give up. There won't be any. They're listening to the Israeli public, the Israeli media, and they hear various voices. One of the voices, stop the war. Now they are listening to it, and this gives them the hope that if they will hold just a little more, then Israel will give up. This is the right now the position we are in, and that's why Prime Minister Netanyahu is talking with Minister Smotrich and Minister Ben-Gvir. Please try to follow the tactic of this forward steps in the negotiation, because after that we will be given a free hand to go after Hamas.
Thank you so much for your time, Brigadier General Reserves Hanan Gefen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And we continue to see thousands of people come out to the streets to protest for a hostage and a ceasefire deal in Israel. But as we've discussed, there is still nothing tangible on the table right now, creating some frustration and confusion in Israeli society about the mixed possibilities about reaching a deal. Joining us now to discuss this is Professor Arieh Eldad, who's with Ma'ariv and Radio 103. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Shalom.
Now tell us, there has been ongoing frustration in society here in Israel that there could be a ceasefire. Now there may not be a ceasefire. The deal is currently at a standstill. Now this has been going on for months. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have both expressed this deal could be imminent within even just the last month or so. But now we know discussions are currently at this standstill once again. What are the political implications of something like this, and what does it do to Israeli society?
There are pressures from within the Israeli society to end the war and from outside on the Israeli government. And a ceasefire can be reached in 5 minutes once Hamas will give up its ideology and the hostages. As long as they do not do it, and General Gefen expressed it exactly, the war will go on and on and on. The hostages are a very, very emotional and very intense point, but it is a 100-year war, and nobody expects it to be finished if the hostages will be released or not. It is
Absolutely.
a war, and such tragic situations happened in all the wars in human history. And we are looking for a different solution right now to end the war with a small local solution of the hostages problem. It's not the key issue of this war.
Right. Well, of course, it's so emotional. Every Saturday night here in Israel, there are protests, specifically at Hostages Square in Tel Aviv. Just last night, we mentioned earlier in this newscast, Eli Sharabi, a released hostage, came out. An actress, Noah Tishby, was there, in addition to these families of hostages who have been pleading for their loved ones to come home. Tell me, you mentioned before, it could take 5 minutes to reach a deal if Hamas just decides to lay down its weapons. How likely is Hamas and Israel to reach a deal at this point? Let's say within this week. Remember, President Trump said last week a deal could be reached this week. So where are we now?
A partial deal can be reached if Israel will surrender to the internal and external pressure. There are no signs that Hamas is going to surrender.
So you're basically saying it's as simple as that?
Yes. It seems that the soft areas now are the Israeli government. And it seems that Netanyahu is under more pressure than the Hamas. Hamas couldn't care less of how many people of his armed terrorists will be killed and how many civilians will be killed. They couldn't care less. The war is the issue. The war is the essence. So we will not frighten them with more bombing. The only thing that can stop them is if we'll put a siege on them and we'll stop feed them and give them fuel and water. I didn't find any previous example in human history when a state or a country fed their enemies during the war. There are no examples of such absurdity. But we are under pressure, external pressure and some internal pressure. So we feed the enemy, so we make sure that the war will go on and on and on.
I want to ask you just one more final question before we leave here. In terms of Netanyahu meeting with this small group of Israeli ministers today about these problems that they're seeing come up inside of these talks inside of Doha, what can you tell us about what will be discussed in addition to, what the outcome of this meeting could likely be?
Nothing. I know nothing. All the interpreters and the people who sit in the studios know nothing. They just speak their ideas, what they want, what they wish for. What we don't have any real proof of what we say. What will be discussed there is between Netanyahu and his ministers. What will be decided is between them. We don't know. We can talk for hours about what they will talk and what condition, if they will give them ultimatum or not, but we just waste our time. We don't know the facts. Once we know the facts, we can discuss it about what was decided, not about what is going to be decided.
Well, I think that's something that all of us journalists have had to do, because there's been so many different mixed signals of information that have come out in terms of this war, and we want to keep our viewers up to date. We want people to be informed. Unfortunately, when there's different back channels of information coming out, it's hard to understand what truly is happening. There was an interview that came out just on American news media yesterday of Netanyahu saying there could be a ceasefire very close. Meanwhile, we're hearing another Palestinian official tell the BBC that the deal is, on the brink of collapsing. So there's so many different types of information that comes out. I know that we're all trying to make sense of it as well. But I appreciate your time, and I thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And there are also dramatic reports coming out from the recent 12-day war between Israel and Iran. According to reports in the Israeli media, an F-15 fighter malfunctioned above Iran amid that war, barely averting an emergency landing. Channel 12 reports that an aerial refueler reached the jet deep inside of Iran, fixed the fuel tank issue, and the mission was completely safe. The backup plan was reportedly in place in which the F-15 would have attempted to land in a neighboring country. And in another report, the Iranian president was reportedly injured in an Israeli airstrike during the 12-day war. The injury to the president's leg reportedly took place when jets hit a building housing a National Security Council meeting. Now, the alleged attack came just 4 days into the 12-day Israeli air campaign. Last week, the president told commentator Tucker Carlson that Israel tried to kill him. And joining us now to discuss is Nati Toobian, an Iranian analyst who we've spoken with before. Thanks so much for being with us today, Nati.
Hi, Shosh. Thank you for having me.
Tell me what the latest is between Israel and Iran at this point. If Iran moves towards making more bombs, could Israel strike again? This is kind of what's being discussed amongst the media at this point in time.
This is at least what the Israeli officials say. If we see what Israel Katz said after, in their recent combat fighters, that he openly and directly threatened Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and all the officials that any attempt to rebuild their ability will be responded harshly by Israel. And if we see the open letter that Yoav Gallant, the former defense minister, sent to Ali Khamenei, in which he said that he and his whole apparatus are being watched, and any attempt to try to rebuild whatever has been destroyed will be dealt harshly by Israel.
I mean, are these threats real, though? I mean, how serious are they? Would Iran be in a place to act right now, since they have lost so many commanders, senior officials? Is there a lot of work for them to get back to a point where they would even feel comfortable attacking, a United States airbase or Israel proper?
Well, right now we are in a kind of a de facto ceasefire. It doesn't mean that Israel has ceased operating inside Iran, because we are witnessing few explosions, few unexplained explosions. The recent one was in a building, where, in a tower that is actually resided by high judiciary officials. And there are reports that Ali Taib, the brother of the former head of the IRGC intelligence, was killed in that explosion. And the officials said that it was a kind of a gas leak. But if we take into account that the building has never, it's a quite new building, and it was never been connected to the gas network, we can only presume that Israel is continuing to target high officials. This brother was also representative of Khamenei in one of the one of the most important IRGC headquarters of Tehran, which is responsible for maintaining the security and even crack down the uprisings in Tehran. And this even has become a kind of joke inside Iran. Countless of memes showing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dressed as a gas company worker, who comes to and knocks the doors of the officials and said, "Do you want me to fix your your gas pipe?" And yes, I think the Israeli activity inside Iran still continues. It will be, to my humble opinion, foolish to let Iran gain its strength once again. And we are now in a situation that Israel still has the Iranian sky, at least from the western side of the country till Tehran, the capital, in its control, and it will. I think it will continue to maintain its aerial superiority.
In terms of the morale inside of Iran, what does that look like? What does that feel like for the average Iranian person who also underwent this entire war? We know that they had intense internet blackouts. They had a hard time not just communicating with people outside of the country, but their own loved ones and family and friends inside of the country during that war. Tell us what life is like right now for them.
Well, I can't divide it, to percentage of, which percentage of the population supports this point of view or that point of view. But according to what I see at the social networks, the voices are divided. Some agree to the Israeli attacks and say that this is not our war, this is the war of the Islamic Republic Israel. And to what happened, invaded the Iranian soil, Israel is even helping the Iranian people on its battle against the Iranian or the Islamic tyranny. Others, among whom we can include the leftists, intellectuals, and the Islamists, say that Iran is their temple, and no matter who or what country attacks them, this is still a kind of aggression. And of course, we have the harsh nucleus of the regime supporters that believe, or at least are trying to show, that they have been victorious. Only recently, we have been witnessing the denial of the news that Iran has shot down several F-35 fighter jets. It was a kind of hot discussions that they said, okay, we shut them down, we took the pilots captive, and we sent the fuselage to China. And now they say that all of this news that was broadcast in the state TV is another conspiracy of the Western countries. Go figure.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we've seen that misinformation coming out of Iranian state media about just the condition of even the targets that they hit inside of Israel during that war and the types of damage that was sustained. Of course, all those different AI-generated videos also come out. We also see that exact behavior from their terror proxy, the Houthis. Just last week, I know this is a different topic, but just the same type of mantra and the same type of system that they operate under is spreading this misinformation that they do hit several targets in central Israel, when that is certainly not the case last week when they fired a missile here when sirens didn't even sound in central Israel. Nati Toobian, thank you so much for being with us today, as always, and providing insight of what is happening inside of Iran.
A pleasure.
And before we leave, we're going to talk about a Palestinian American who was killed in Judea and Samaria. The IDF is now probing the circumstances of the death of this Palestinian Arab American during violent clashes in a village near Ramallah in Samaria. The dead man was identified, and the Palestinian authorities said that the 23-year-old was fatally shot by Israeli settlers. He was a dual U.S.-Palestinian citizen. 10 other people were reportedly injured in those clashes as well. The army says that 2 Israelis were also lightly injured during a rock attack, leading to a confrontation including arson, vandalism, and physical violence. The army is now investigating a report that the American-Palestinian visitor died after being struck in the head with a club. After receiving the initial reports, the IDF, police, and border police were dispatched to the scene to disperse the violent confrontation. That's the latest here on ILTV on the hour. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more updates.